Emma stirred awake in her small, cluttered apartment, the morning light filtering through the thin curtains, casting a soft glow on the chaotic scene around her. The walls were adorned with faded posters of inspirational quotes and colorful drawings, remnants of her dreams that once felt so tangible. She stretched, feeling the familiar ache in her back from the lumpy mattress that had seen better days. Today marked the beginning of another workday, and the weight of her financial struggle settled heavily on her chest. As she shuffled to the tiny kitchen, the scent of instant coffee filled the air, mingling with the faint aroma of the cereal she had left uneaten the night before. The small space was cramped, cluttered with stacks of books, children's toys, and laundry that desperately needed folding. She sighed, glancing at the unmade bed, a silent testament to her often chaotic life. Emma had always envisioned herself as a teacher, imparting knowledge and nurturing young minds. But dreams often collided with harsh realities, and the bills piled up faster than she could manage. Becoming a nanny had been a practical choice, albeit one that felt like a step away from her aspirations. As she prepared for her day, her phone buzzed on the countertop. It was a text from her best friend, Sarah. "Hey, Em. Just wanted to remind you to hold on to hope. Things will get better. Can't wait to hear about your first day with a new family." Smiling face with smiling eyes, Emma smiled faintly at the message. Sarah had a way of lifting her spirits, even if it was just for a moment. She typed a quick reply, thanking her for the encouragement, before slipping the phone back into her pocket. After a quick shower and a hasty breakfast, Emma dressed in a simple yet professional outfit, a navy blue blouse paired with black trousers. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, adjusting her hair into a neat bun. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, trying to drown out the nagging doubts that crept into her mind. Her heart raced as she thought about her new job. She had been hired to care for a young girl named Lily, the daughter of a millionaire. The thought of stepping into a world of wealth and privilege felt both exhilarating and intimidating. With her bag slung over her shoulder, Emma left her apartment, locking the door behind her. The hallway was dimly lit and filled with the sounds of her neighbors' daily routines. She took a deep breath, ready to face whatever the day had in store for her. The bus ride was a blur of faces, each person trapped in their own thoughts, much like her. She gazed out the window, watching the cityscape transform from worn-down buildings to luxurious storefronts as they neared the affluent neighborhood. When she finally arrived at the sprawling mansion, Emma felt a mix of awe and anxiety. The grand entrance was flanked by perfectly manicured gardens, the scent of blooming flowers wafting through the air. She approached the large double doors, her heart pounding in her chest. As she rang the doorbell, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into a different world, one that she had only seen in movies. The door swung open, revealing a woman dressed in elegant attire, her smile warm yet professional. "You must be Emma. Welcome. I'm Claire, the house manager. Mr. Hawthorne is in the study with Lily. I'll take you to them." Emma nodded, her throat suddenly dry as she followed Claire through the lavish foyer. The walls were adorned with art pieces that looked like they belonged in a gallery, and the floors gleamed with polished marble. Claire led her to a spacious room where Ethan Hawthorne was on a video call, papers strewn across the desk in front of him. The atmosphere felt tense, and Emma hesitated at the doorway, her eyes darting to a small girl playing with a doll in the corner. Lily, with her curly hair and bright blue dress, seemed to radiate innocence and joy. "Lily, sweetheart, this is Emma, your new nanny," Ethan said, his voice smooth yet edged with fatigue as he ended the call. He looked up, and their eyes met for the briefest moment. Emma felt a rush of emotion at the sight of him. Ethan was strikingly handsome, with tousled dark hair and a commanding presence that filled the room. However, there was something in his eyes, an underlying weariness that belied his polished exterior. "Hi, Emma. Lily chirped, bounding over with excitement. Emma knelt to Lily's level, her smile genuine as she replied, "Hi, Lily. I'm so happy to meet you. What do you like to do for fun?" Ethan watched the interaction, a flicker of warmth crossing his face as he observed his daughter's enthusiasm. "She's quite the artist," he added, his tone softening. "You'll find her doodles all over the house." Emma chuckled lightly, feeling a bit more at ease. "I love art. Maybe you can show me some of your drawings later?" "Okay." Lily beamed, her eyes sparkling with delight. "Great. I'll leave you two to get acquainted. I'll be just down the hall if you need anything," Ethan said, his voice steady, but his gaze lingering on Emma for a moment longer than necessary. "Thank you," Emma replied, her heart racing as he walked away. There was something about Ethan that intrigued her, a complexity that hinted at struggles hidden beneath his affluent lifestyle. As she settled into her role, she focused on Lily, engaging her in conversation and drawing her out of her shell. "Do you like to play outside?" Emma asked, leading Lily to a colorful playroom filled with toys and art supplies. "Yes. I like to make big chalk drawings on the sidewalk," Lily exclaimed, her excitement infectious. "Chalk drawings? That sounds amazing. What do you draw?" Emma inquired, genuinely interested. "Rainbows and unicorns. And sometimes I draw my daddy," Lily said, a hint of pride in her voice. "Really? I'd love to see your drawings," Emma encouraged, her heart warming at Lily's creativity. As the day unfolded, Emma felt a sense of fulfillment she hadn't experienced in a long time. She immersed herself in Lily's world, playing games, reading stories, and sharing laughter. Yet, even amidst the joy, a part of her remained aware of Ethan's presence, the unseen weight of his responsibilities hanging in the air like a thick fog. The hours passed quickly, and as Emma tidied up the playroom, she caught glimpses of Ethan through the glass doors of his study. He was on another call, his expression serious, the tension in his posture evident. A part of her wanted to know more about him, to understand the man behind the wealth. But she pushed those thoughts aside, reminding herself to remain professional. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue across the mansion, Emma felt a mixture of satisfaction and anticipation. She had survived her first day, forging a connection with Lily and navigating the newness of her surroundings. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Ethan than met the eye. What lay beneath his charismatic facade? Emma wondered, her mind racing with possibilities. The day had been a whirlwind of emotions, and as she prepared to leave, she glanced back at the mansion one last time, feeling the weight of unanswered questions lingering in the air. But for now, she had made a small difference in Lily's life, and perhaps, just perhaps, she would discover more about the enigmatic man who owned this opulent world. As the days turned into weeks, the sun cast a gentle glow through the large windows of Ethan's mansion. Emma found herself settling into a routine that felt both comforting and surreal. The once intimidating expanse of the home had transformed into a space where laughter echoed, particularly that of Lily, who had quickly become the center of Emma's world. In the playroom, adorned with colorful toys and art supplies, Emma and Lily spent countless afternoons together. Today, they were sprawled on a soft rug, their hands busy with crayons as they created a masterpiece that could only be described as a chaotic explosion of colors. Emma watched as Lily focused intently, her brows furrowed in concentration. "What do you want to be when you grow up, Lily?" Emma asked, her curiosity piqued. Lily paused, her crayon hovering over the paper. "I want to be a princess," she explained, her blue eyes sparkling with excitement. "But not just any princess. A princess who helps people." Emma chuckled softly, her heart warming at the innocence of the child's ambition. "That sounds wonderful. You could be a princess and help so many people. What kind of things would you do? Lily put down her crayon and leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I would build a big castle and fill it with friends and animals. We'd have parties and share our toys. And I would make sure everyone is happy. Do you think a princess needs to wear a crown? Emma asked, pretending to adjust an invisible tiara on her own head. Of course. Lily giggled, her laughter ringing like music through the room. But I think the best princesses wear kindness instead of crowns. That's what really makes you a princess. Emma smiled, her heart swelling with admiration for the little girl's wisdom. You're right, Lily. Kindness is the best crown anyone can wear. As they continued to color, Ethan stood just outside the door, leaning against the frame with his arms crossed. The sight before him tugged at something deep within. He watched Emma interact with Lily, the way her eyes lit up, and how she listened intently to the child's whimsical dreams. There was a warmth in the room that he hadn't felt in years, a stark contrast to the coldness that often consumed his life. Dad! Lily called out suddenly, breaking Ethan from his reverie. Come see what we made. Ethan stepped in, a smile creeping onto his lips to spite himself. What have you two been up to? Emma turned, her cheeks slightly flushed. We've been creating a masterpiece. Lily wants to be a princess who helps people. That's a noble goal, Ethan replied, crouching down to Lily's eye level. What do you think a princess needs to do to help people? Lily pondered for a moment, her tiny finger tapping her chin. She needs to care for them and share her toys. Ethan couldn't help but chuckle. I think you're right, sweetheart. And you can start by sharing your toys with your friends, right? Lily nodded enthusiastically. Yes. And we can help animals too. Like rescuing them. Emma exchanged a glance with Ethan, both of them amused at Lily's enthusiasm. Absolutely, Emma added, joining the conversation. A true princess would definitely care for all creatures great and small. Ethan marveled at the way Emma engaged with Lily, her warmth and genuine interest shining through. It was refreshing in a way he hadn't anticipated. You have a gift with her, he admitted, his voice softer than usual. Emma felt a flutter in her stomach at his compliment. Thank you, Ethan. She's an incredible little girl. It's easy to connect with her. As the days continued, Ethan found himself drawn to the playroom more often, watching Emma and Lily bond over art, stories, and imaginative games. He'd never realized how lonely he had been, even surrounded by wealth and luxury. One particular afternoon, however, the peace was shattered. Lily, in her excitement, had poured a glass of juice on the dining room table while reaching for her favorite snack. The bright red liquid splattered across Ethan's important documents sprawled out before him. Lily! He exclaimed, standing up abruptly, his voice a mix of surprise and frustration. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Lily cried, her eyes wide with fear as she looked from her father to the mess. Just as tension hung in the air, Emma rushed in, her heart racing. It's okay, Lily. Accidents happen, she soothed, kneeling next to the little girl. Let's clean it up together, all right. I'll get some paper towels, Ethan offered, still feeling the pressure of the situation. No, that's okay, Emma said gently, shaking her head as she pulled out a cleaning cloth from her pocket. I've got this. As she dabbed at the juice, her demeanor shifted the atmosphere entirely. The tension began to dissipate, replaced by a lightheartedness that felt almost electric. Lily, why don't you grab a few more towels and help me? Emma suggested, her tone playful. Okay, Lily chimed, her fear vanishing as she darted off to get the towels. Ethan watched, his frustration fading as he observed Emma's calm presence. Her ability to diffuse the situation with grace was impressive. You have a knack for turning chaos into calm, Emma, he remarked, a hint of admiration in his voice. Emma chuckled, tossing him a playful glance. "It's a skill I've had to develop over the years. Kids have a way of keeping you on your toes." "Tell me about it," Ethan said, his expression softening. "It feels like every day is a new adventure with her." "Exactly," Emma smiled, her eyes twinkling with understanding. "But those adventures are what make life interesting, right?" As they both continued to clean up the mess, Ethan felt an unexpected connection blooming between them. The awkwardness that had once defined their interaction seemed to fade into the background. Later that evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Ethan found himself contemplating an invitation he had been forming in his mind. It was a small gesture, but it felt significant. He approached Emma, who was tidying up the playroom after dinner. "Emma," he began, a hint of hesitation in his voice, "would you like to join us for dinner tonight? Just the three of us?" Emma blinked in surprise, her heart racing at the unexpected offer. "Really? Yeah, I thought it might be nice to have a casual dinner together. You've been so great with Lily, and I'd love to get to know you better," Ethan continued, his tone earnest. Emma smiled, a wave of warmth washing over her. "I'd love to, Ethan. Thank you for the invite." As they sat down together, the table adorned with simple yet delicious food, the atmosphere shifted again. Conversation flowed more freely, laughter filled the air, and stories began to unfold. Emma shared tales of her childhood, the challenges she faced, and her dreams of becoming a teacher. Ethan, in turn, opened up about his experiences growing up in a world dominated by wealth, revealing the loneliness that often accompanied his lifestyle. "I've often felt like I'm living behind a glass wall," Ethan confessed, his gaze distant. "People see the mansion, the money, the success, but they don't see the real me." Emma nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I can understand that. I may not have your wealth, but I know what it feels like to be trapped by circumstances. Sometimes, it's hard to show who you really are." Their eyes locked for a moment, an unspoken understanding passing between them. In that instant, both felt a connection that transcended their different worlds, a bond forged through shared vulnerability and honesty. As dinner came to a close, Ethan realized that this evening was more than just a meal. It marked the beginning of something profound. The barriers he had built around himself were slowly crumbling, and in their place was a growing sense of hope and connection, one that he hadn't anticipated finding in the most unexpected of places. Emma sat at her small, round kitchen table, a steaming cup of coffee cradled in her hands. The morning sun filtered through the window, casting a warm glow on the cluttered space around her. Today, she'd promised Lily they'd spend the afternoon at the park, and the thought of seeing the little girl's face light up at the prospect of adventure filled her with joy. However, as she sipped her coffee, her mind wandered to Ethan. The more time she spent with him, the more she found herself fascinated by the man behind the millionaire facade. As she scrolled through her phone, she stumbled upon an article about Ethan's philanthropic efforts in the local community. She had heard whispers about his charitable donations, but had never realized the extent of his involvement. He wasn't just a wealthy businessman. He was actively working to improve the lives of others. Emma's heart swelled with admiration as she read about the various initiatives he supported, from funding local schools to providing scholarships for underprivileged children. "Wow, Ethan," she murmured to herself, her brow furrowing in contemplation. "You really do care." This new understanding ignited something within her, a desire to share her own dreams with him. Emma had always envisioned herself in a classroom, inspiring young minds, yet the weight of her financial struggles often dimmed that dream. But if Ethan could dedicate himself to bettering the world, perhaps she too could find the courage to pursue her aspirations. That afternoon, after their outing to the park, where Lily had delighted in chasing after ducks and swinging on the swings, Emma decided to take the plunge. She wanted to talk to Ethan about her dreams of teaching. It was a delightful day, and Lily had been radiant, her laughter ringing out like music. As the three of them returned to the mansion, Emma felt a sense of purpose settle over her. "Daddy! Emma! Look what I found!" Lily shouted, her tiny hands clutching a handful of wildflowers. She held them up proudly, her eyes sparkling. "They're beautiful, Lily," Emma explained, kneeling down to admire the flowers. "You're going to be the best florist in the world someday." Lily giggled, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "I can have a flower shop, and you can help me." "Of course. We'll make the best team," Emma replied, ruffling Lily's hair affectionately. As they entered the mansion, Ethan was just coming down the staircase. He paused, a smile breaking across his face as he took in the sight of his daughter and Emma. "What's all the excitement about?" "Look, Daddy! I found flowers." Lily beamed, thrusting the bouquet toward him. Ethan knelt down, examining the wildflowers with the seriousness of a connoisseur. "These are lovely, sweetheart. You know, I think you just might have a future as a florist." Emma caught Ethan's eye, and in that moment, she felt a surge of connection. "Actually, I was just telling Lily that we could help her start a flower shop," she said, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. Ethan chuckled, a warm, genuine sound that sent a ripple of warmth through her. "I can see it now. Lily's Blooming Boutique. It has a nice ring to it. Can we, Daddy? Please?" Lily pleaded, her voice filled with hope. Ethan glanced at Emma, and she could see a flicker of something in his eyes, perhaps a hint of admiration for her enthusiasm or a spark of curiosity about her dreams. "Well, if anyone can make that dream happen, it's you, Lily. But first, let's get some snacks, and then I need to have a word with Emma." As they made their way into the kitchen, the atmosphere shifted. Lily busied herself with a jar of cookies, while Ethan leaned against the counter, watching Emma with an intensity that made her heart race. "I've been meaning to talk to you about something," Ethan began, his tone subtly serious. Emma's stomach knotted as she set her mug down. "Sure, what is it?" "I had a meeting with my business partner today," he said, running a hand to his hair, a gesture she was beginning to recognize as a sign of stress. "He proposed a deal that doesn't sit right with me. It involves investing in a company that has a questionable reputation." Emma's brow furrowed in concern. "What do you mean? Can't you just say no?" Ethan sighed, his expression darkening. "It's not that simple. We've been working together for years, and he's been a valuable partner. But I'm starting to feel trapped in this world of greed and superficiality. I want to do good, Emma, but it feels like every time I try, I'm pulled back into this cycle of profit over people." Emma's heart ached for him. She could see the conflict etched on his face, the weight of expectations pressing down on his shoulders. "You're not alone in this, Ethan. You have a choice. You can choose to be the person you want to be, even if it means going against the tide." His gaze softened, and for a moment, Emma felt the barriers between them begin to dissolve. "How do you do it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "How do you find the courage to follow your dreams, despite everything?" Emma took a deep breath, her mind racing back to her own struggles. "I guess I've learned that life is too short to settle for anything less than what makes you happy. It's not easy, but I hold on to that dream. I want to be a teacher because I believe in the power of education. It can change lives." Ethan studied her, and she could feel the depth of his admiration. "You inspire me, Emma," he said, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. "You remind me that there's more to life than just money and status." Before she could respond, Lily burst into the room, holding up a cookie with a triumphant grin. "Look what I made!" The moment of intensity shattered, and they both turned toward the little girl, laughter spilling from their lips. But as Emma watched Ethan interact with Lily, She couldn't shake the feeling that their conversation had changed something between them. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Emma found herself in the living room, lost in thought. She felt a surge of determination to share her dreams with Ethan, to let him know that she believed in him just as much as he believed in her. When Ethan entered, he looked weary, the weight of the day still clinging to him. "Hey, Emma," he said softly, sinking into the couch beside her. "Hey," she replied, her heart racing. "I was thinking about what you said earlier." Ethan turned to face her, his eyes searching hers. "Yeah, I think you should follow your heart. You have the power to influence others for good. Just like you're doing with Lily," she said, her voice steady. "You can be a force for change." Ethan smiled, a genuine warmth spreading across his face. "Thank you, Emma. I needed to hear that." In that moment, surrounded by the soft glow of the lamps and the warmth of their shared vulnerability, Emma felt a connection that transcended their worlds. They were two souls seeking the same light, and perhaps together they could find a way to illuminate the darkness that often clouded their paths. Emma stood in her small, dimly lit kitchen, her heart racing as she read the email notification on her phone. The subject line read, "Job offer, prestigious teaching position." She had applied on a whim, never truly believing she would be considered for such an opportunity. As she clicked to open it, her mind raced with thoughts of what this could mean for her future. The email detailed the rule, the school's commitment to nurturing young minds, and the competitive salary that far exceeded her current income. But then, a pang of guilt hit her. She couldn't shake the thought of Lily. Lily had become more than just a child under her care. She was a bright light in Emma's life, a little girl whose laughter filled the grand mansion with warmth. Emma had invested so much of herself in Lily's well-being, and the idea of leaving her behind felt like a betrayal. She sighed deeply, leaning against the counter as she processed the weight of her decision. Later that evening, after finishing her shift, Emma arrived at the mansion with a heavy heart. Lily was in the living room, sprawled on the floor with her art supplies, creating a colorful masterpiece. The sight brought a small smile to Emma's face. "Look, Emma," Lily exclaimed, holding up her drawing, which depicted a rainbow over a house. "This is our house." Emma knelt beside her, admiration shining in her eyes. "It's beautiful, Lily. You've captured all the colors perfectly. Are you sure this isn't a castle?" Lily giggled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "No, silly. It's our house where we all live together." The innocent statement tugged at Emma's heartstrings. She had become a part of this little family, and the thought of leaving felt unbearable. "Well, I think it's a wonderful house," she said softly, trying to hide the turmoil within her. Just then, Ethan entered the room, his presence commanding and warm. He had been in his office, buried in work, but the sound of laughter drew him out. "What's this?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Emma loves my drawing," Lily declared, her face lighting up at the praise. Ethan looked at Emma with a hint of curiosity. "You've got away with her, Emma." "I don't know how you do it." Emma shrugged, her cheeks flushing slightly under his gaze. "She makes it easy. She's such a talented artist." As they spoke, Emma felt the weight of the email pressing on her conscience. "Ethan, can I speak to you for a moment?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course," he replied, glancing at Lily before stepping into the adjoining room with Emma. Once inside the quieter space, Emma took a deep breath, her heart racing at the thought of sharing her news. "I received a job offer today," she began, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "It's a teaching position at a prestigious school." Ethan's expression shifted, a flicker of concern passing through his eyes. "That's great news, Emma. Why do you look so conflicted?" She hesitated, her mind swirling with thoughts of Lily. "It's a wonderful opportunity, but what if it means I have to leave?" I don't want to abandon Lily. Ethan crossed his arms, his brow furrowing in thought. You have to think about your future, Emma. This is a chance to pursue your dreams. But I understand how hard it is to leave her behind. The sincerity in his voice made Emma's heart ache. I've grown so attached to her. She's like family to me now. Ethan shifted closer, his demeanor softening. You've done more for her than anyone else in her life. But you also deserve to chase your own dreams. It doesn't have to be forever. Emma nodded, feeling the weight of his words. I know. I just wish there was a way to keep both my job and my connection with her. Ethan looked thoughtful. Maybe there is. You could transition into a part-time role here while teaching. That way, you could still be a part of Lily's life. The suggestion hung in the air, a glimmer of hope amid her uncertainty. Do you think that would work? I think it could. But ultimately, it's your decision, Emma. Just remember that you have the right to pursue your happiness. As the conversation lingered in the air, Emma felt a swell of emotion. It was hard to deny the connection that had blossomed between them, a bond that transcended their different worlds. But lurking beneath those feelings was a shadow of fear. What if crossing the line from caregiver to something more complicated jeopardized everything they had built? Meanwhile, Ethan was grappling with his own feelings. He had come to appreciate Emma's presence in a way he hadn't anticipated. She brought light into his often gray world, a world filled with expectations and superficial interactions. Yet, he couldn't help but feel the weight of their social differences. His friends and peers wouldn't understand his interest in a naughty, and the thought scared him. Emma, no matter what you decide, I want you to know that you've made a difference in Lily's life and mine, Ethan said, his voice low and sincere. Emma's heart fluttered at his admission. Thank you, Ethan. That means a lot coming from you. As they stood there, a comfortable silence enveloped them, both acutely aware of the unspoken tension simmering just beneath the surface. Emma's thoughts drifted to the possibility of a life beyond their current circumstances, a life where dreams were within reach. But was it a dream worth pursuing if it meant leaving behind the warmth she had found in this family? The next day, Emma and Ethan decided to take Lily on a spontaneous trip to a nearby amusement park. The weather was perfect, and the excitement in Lily's eyes was contagious. As they arrived, the vibrant colors and sounds of laughter filled the air, creating an atmosphere that felt almost magical. Can we go on the Ferris wheel first? Lily asked, tugging at Emma's hand as they walked through the entrance. Absolutely. That seems like a great place to start, Emma replied, her smile brightening at Lily's enthusiasm. Ethan, walking beside them, couldn't help but chuckle at their excitement. I'll brave the heights for you too, but I can't promise I won't scream like a little girl. Emma laughed, feeling the tension from the previous days melt away as they navigated through the park. They rode the Ferris wheel, screaming and laughing as they soared above the park, the view breathtaking. For a moment, everything felt perfect. As they disembarked, Lily pulled them toward the cotton candy stand, her eyes wide with delight. Can we get some, please? Sure, why not? Ethan said, reaching into his pocket for cash. While they stood waiting for the cotton candy, Emma felt a sense of belonging wash over her. They were a family, in their own unique way, and the thought of leaving this behind felt more painful than ever. Emma, Ethan said suddenly, his voice drawing her attention. I know you're thinking a lot about your future, and I want you to know that whatever path you choose, I'll support you. His words resonated deeply within her. Thank you, Ethan. That means the world to me. As they walked away from the stand, sticky hands clutching sweet treats, laughter echoed through the amusement park. Emma looked at Ethan, her heart swelling with unspoken feelings. This day was a reminder of what truly mattered: connection, joy, and the freedom to dream. And as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, She found herself hoping that perhaps, just perhaps, their dreams could intertwine in ways they hadn't yet imagined. Emma stood in the spacious living room of Ethan's mansion, her heart pounding as she prepared to deliver the news that weighed heavily on her. The sun streamed through the grand windows, casting a warm glow that illuminated the room, but the brightness did little to ease the tension quilling in her stomach. She had made her decision. It was time to embrace her future, even if it meant leaving behind the warmth and laughter she had found in this luxurious but emotionally distant world. "Ethan," she began, her voice steady but soft, as she caught sight of him seated on the plush sofa, a stack of papers sprawled around him. He looked up from the document he had been reviewing, his expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "Yes, Emma? Is everything okay?" His brow furrowed, and she could see the flicker of worry in his blue eyes. She had grown fond of that gaze, so expressive and honest, a stark contrast to the world of facades he often inhabited. Taking a deep breath, Emma clenched her fists to steady herself. "I wanted to tell you that I've accepted the teaching position at the school." The words felt heavy, each syllable dropping like a stone into the silence that followed. Ethan's expression shifted, and she could almost see the gears turning in his mind. His jaw tightened, and he nodded slowly, as if weighing her words. "That's great news, Emma." "Really?" he replied, though the forced smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "You've always wanted to teach." "Yes, I have. It's a dream I can't ignore any longer," she replied, her voice wavering slightly. "But it means I won't be able to care for Lily anymore." The thought of leaving the little girl behind clawed at her heart. She had grown to love their time together, the laughter and the shared moments that had filled her days with joy. Ethan's silence stretched uncomfortably between them. He ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture she had come to recognize as a sign of his agitation. "I understand why you want to pursue this," he said finally, his tone measured. "But I'll miss you. We'll all miss you." Emma looked down, unable to meet his gaze. "I'll miss you too, Ethan. You've been so much more than just an employer to me." She paused, fighting back the wave of emotions that threatened to spill over. "You've been a friend." He stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the polished floor, and turned away from her. "It's just, I didn't think this would happen so soon. I thought we had more time." His voice was low, almost a whisper, but the pain behind it was palpable. Emma's heart sank. She had hoped he would understand, that he would support her in this decision. "I need to do this for myself. I can't keep putting my life on hold, Ethan." Her voice trembled, and she stepped closer, wanting to bridge the distance that had suddenly grown between them. "You're right," he conceded, his back still turned to her. "It's just hard to let go. You and Lily have brought a light into this house that I didn't know was missing." He paused, taking a deep breath as if gathering courage. "I thought I'd have more time to get used to the idea of you leaving." Emma felt a pang of guilt. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I have to take this opportunity." She reached out, placing a tentative hand on his arm, hoping to convey her sincerity. He turned to face her, and in that moment, the air between them shifted. His eyes held a depth of emotion that made her heart race. What if we figured out a way to make this work? I mean, you could still be a part of Lily's life, even if you're not her naughty anymore." There was a vulnerability in his voice that tugged at her heartstrings. Emma shook her head, feeling the weight of her decision. "Ethan, I can't be in two places at once. This is a chance for me to grow, to become the person I want to be." She took a step back, needing some space to breathe. "I have to prioritize my future." The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Then, Ethan took a step toward her, closing the distance she had just created. His gaze was intense, searching hers, as if he were trying to decipher a hidden message. "Emma," he said softly, "there's something I need to tell you before you go." His voice was steady, but there was an undercurrent of urgency that made her heart skip a beat. "I don't know how to say this, but I've grown to care for you deeply. More than I ever expected." Her breath caught in her throat, and she felt her cheeks flush. "Ethan, she started, but he held up a hand to stop her. "Please, just let me finish." His sincerity disarmed her, and she nodded, urging him to continue. "You brought so much joy into my life, and I can't help but feel that there's something special between us. Something worth exploring." Emma's mind raced. She had felt a connection with him, a spark that ignited every time their eyes met. But the reality of their situation loomed large. A millionaire and a naughty, two worlds that seemed impossibly apart. "I care for you too, but I don't know if we can make this work. I'm not asking you to give up your dreams." His voice was earnest, his eyes never wavering from hers. I want a chance to see where this could go. To see if we can find a way to be together, even if the circumstances are challenging." In that moment, time seemed to stand still. Emma's heart raced as she took in his words, the warmth of his presence enveloping her. "Ethan, she began again, but this time, he stepped closer, his gaze burning with intensity. Before she could finish her thought, he leaned down, capturing her lips with his. The kiss was tentative at first, a gentle exploration that quickly deepened into something more passionate. Emma melted against him, her worries and doubts fading as she surrendered to the moment. It felt as if the world around them had disappeared, leaving only the two of them in their own small universe. When they finally pulled apart, breathless and wide-eyed, Emma felt a whirlwind of emotions coursing through her. "What does this mean for us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's thumb brushed against her cheek, and he smiled softly. "I don't know yet, but I want to figure it out with you, if you'll let me." Emma felt a surge of hope mingled with uncertainty. She wanted to believe in this connection, in the possibilities that lay ahead, but the reality of her impending departure loomed large. The next morning, Emma awoke with a heavy heart. Today was the day she would leave the mansion, her sanctuary, and the people she had grown to love. She moved through her morning routine in a daze, the weight of her choices settling on her shoulders. After a final breakfast with Lily, who had no idea about the changes looming ahead, Emma stood at the door, her suitcase in hand. Ethan appeared in the hallway, his expression a mixture of sadness and determination. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice low and steady. Emma nodded, her throat tight. "I guess so." As she stepped outside, the cool morning air hit her, a stark contrast to the warmth she had felt inside. She took a moment to breathe, to absorb every memory, the laughter, the hugs, the moments of joy that had filled her days. Ethan joined her on the porch, his presence an anchor in her tumultuous thoughts. "Emma," he said, catching her gaze, "I want you to know that this isn't the end. It's just a new beginning for both of us." She smiled through her tears, feeling the ache of parting. "I hope so, Ethan. I really do." With one last look at the mansion, Emma turned to leave, her heart heavy but resolute. Behind her, Ethan watched, the void of her absence already palpable in the air. As she walked away, Emma knew that she was heading toward a future filled with uncertainty, but also with hope. A future where she could chase her dreams, while holding on to the pieces of her heart that Ethan had unknowingly claimed. And while the road ahead was unclear, she felt a flicker of faith that love could bridge even the widest divides. Emma sat at her modest kitchen table, a melodic hum of anticipation bubbling within her as she opened the letter from Lily. The neat handwriting sprawled across the page was unmistakably that of the young girl whose laughter had once filled the grand halls of Ethan's mansion. The letter invited her to a charity event hosted by Ethan, a fundraiser benefiting children's education, an initiative that resonated deeply with Emma's own dreams. She traced the letters with her fingers, a tingle of nostalgia washing over her. The memories of her time with Lily, filled with impromptu tea parties and bedtime stories, flooded her mind. Yet, beneath the excitement lay a wave of hesitation. It had been months since she last saw Ethan, months since she had left the mansion, her heart heavy with unresolved feelings. What would it be like to see him again? Would he still carry that same intensity in his gaze? Emma pondered this as she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, the kitchen around her feeling stifling in comparison to the lavish surroundings she had once known. After a long moment, she took a deep breath, allowing the thrill of curiosity to overpower her doubts. With a determined nod, Emma decided she would attend the event. It was a chance to reconnect, to see how much had changed, both in her life and in Ethan's. The evening of the charity event arrived, and Emma found herself standing before her mirror, adjusting her hair and smoothing down the modest but elegant dress she had chosen. It was a simple navy blue, a stark contrast to the opulence she remembered from the mansion. Yet, as she looked at her reflection, she felt a surge of confidence. She was no longer the same girl who had walked away from Ethan's life. She was forging her own path, and this night would be a testament to her growth. As she arrived at the venue, a luxurious hotel ballroom filled with glimmering chandeliers and elegantly dressed guests, Emma felt a sudden wave of nervousness wash over her. The air buzzed with laughter and the clinking of glasses, a stark reminder of the world Ethan inhabited. She hesitated at the entrance, her heart racing as she scanned the crowd, searching for a familiar face. Then she saw him. Ethan stood at the center of the room, his presence commanding attention. He wore a tailored suit that accentuated his physique, his hair neatly styled. But it was not just his appearance that caught her eye, it was the way he engaged with those around him. He spoke passionately about the causes he supported, a warmth radiating from him that Emma had missed so deeply. She felt a pang of longing, a reminder of the moments they had shared, the walls they had broken down together. As if sensing her gaze, Ethan turned, and their eyes locked. 1,000 unspoken words hung in the air between them. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, quickly replaced by a smile that lit up his features. Emma felt her breath hitch in her throat. She had forgotten how those small expressions could stir such deep emotions within her. "Emma," he said, making his way through the crowd toward her, his voice rich and warm. "I'm so glad you came." "Hi, Ethan," she replied, her own voice quieter than she intended. There was a moment of silence as they stood there, the world around them fading into the background. Emma could see the subtle changes in him. The lines around his eyes seemed softer, and the weight of his past struggles appeared momentarily lifted. Yet, she sensed an underlying tension, an unspoken burden he still carried. "Lily missed you," Ethan said, breaking the lull. "She talks about you all the time." "I missed her too," Emma replied, her heart swelling at the thought of the little girl. "She's such a bright light." Ethan nodded, his expression turning serious. "She's been a bit anxious lately with everything going on. I think she feels the pressure of this event." The conversation shifted, and Emma could see the determination in Ethan's eyes as he spoke about the charity's mission, the importance of ensuring that children received a proper education. He was passionate, fervent, and Emma felt a swell of admiration for him. "You've really committed yourself to this," she said, her voice full of warmth. "It's inspiring." Ethan smiled, but the smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "I've learned a lot since you left. My life isn't just about business anymore. I want to make a difference." They continued to talk, the conversation flowing easily, as though no time had passed. But beneath the surface, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Ethan's demeanor was guarded, a mask of professionalism that contrasted sharply with the man she had come to know. Just as she was about to ask him about it, the atmosphere shifted. A sense of urgency rippled through the crowd as murmurs erupted, drawing their attention toward a group of guests gathered around a large screen displaying breaking news. Emma's heart sank as she caught snippets of conversation. Words like embezzlement and scandal echoed in her ears. Ethan's expression darkened as he turned to face the commotion. "No," he whispered, his voice laced with disbelief. "What's happening?" Emma asked, concern etched across her features. "My business partner," Ethan replied, his voice strained. "He's been accused of embezzling funds from our charity." Emma's heart raced as she watched the news unfold. The report detailed allegations against Ethan's partner, and the implications for Ethan's reputation were clear. "Ethan, this doesn't make sense," she said urgently. "You know he's not like that. You've been working together for years." "I thought so too," Ethan said, his voice trembling with anger and confusion. "But if this is true, it could ruin everything I've built." Just then, a thought crossed Emma's mind, and she felt a rush of determination. "Ethan, I've been researching local charities and their financial dealings for my own work. I might have some information that can help you." Ethan looked at her, a mix of hope and desperation in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I know you believe in transparency and ethics in your work. If I can gather more evidence about your partner's dealings, it might help clear your name," Emma explained, her voice steady as she felt the weight of the moment. "Emma, are you sure?" Ethan asked, his brow furrowed with concern. "I don't want you to put yourself in a difficult position." "I'm already in it, Ethan," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "This is bigger than both of us. You have to fight for what you believe in, and I want to help you." Ethan's expression softened, and for a brief moment, the tension that had lingered between them dissipated, replaced by a profound understanding. "Thank you, Emma. You don't know what this means to me." As they stood together, a renewed sense of purpose ignited within them. They were no longer just two individuals from different worlds. They were allies, united by a common goal. In that moment, they realized that love and humility could indeed bridge the gap between their lives, paving the way for a new beginning together. With Emma by his side, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. Whatever obstacles lay ahead, they would face them together, and perhaps, just perhaps, they could rewrite their story in a way that intertwined their paths once more. The night may have started with uncertainty, but it was now filled with promise, a promise of resilience, love, and the strength to overcome.